Latifat, should I ignore my spouse's recommendation or suggestion when it comes to how to manage my finances or our finances, especially when it comes to what I'm investing in, where I'm investing? If this is a question that you've ever wondered about, this is going to be an amazing episode that you definitely want to make sure that you listen to the end of. If we haven't met before, I'm Dr. Latifat. I'm a money coach for women physicians. I have the distinct honor and privilege of being the founder of the Money School for Women Physicians, which is where women sign up for 12 months to work with me in my community to learn how to manage their finances, how to curate their own rich life, and how to take the income that they're earning and turn it into wealth. So if we haven't met before, I'm so glad that we found each other. We've been trying to find you. What the heck have you been? I'm so excited about this episode because this is a question that I get a lot. I get it a lot, not just from inside of my community, but also outside of my community. And that should not come as a surprise because if you think about it, one of the top 3 reasons why there is friction and even divorce and separation in families has to do with money and finances. Well, at least that's what we say, but I actually don't think it's money itself that is causing the problem. I think many times it's an indication of our communication or inability to hold space for each other when it comes to actually understanding and learning and relearning what each other's values are or how we express our value in the world. So when I think about my community for women physicians, we have like people with relationships all across the board. We got single, married, mingling, not mingling, ready to mingle, not gonna mingle. Like we have the entire works. So and what I actually have found, and I need to look at the data for this, to be honest, in my community, but I would say about 1/3 of women actually join our community when they're going through or anticipating a change in their relationship. So maybe they're just got divorced or they're thinking of getting divorced or separation, or money is just becoming a thing that's causing a lot of trouble in the family that they're like, okay, Latifat, I need to learn how to figure this out. And many times that ends up being like the wake up call that people get that, okay, it's time for me to do something about my finances. But just to give you a little background about my own life and my own finances and when it comes to money. So I've been married now for, I want to say, is it 12 years? I don't know, 12, 13 years, something like that. Actually, this month is going to be our anniversary, which it's kind of crazy. We got married in 2012. So yeah, it's going to be 12 years this year. Wow, time does go by. And I've had the privilege of interviewing my husband, Shirley, on the podcast before. I think we had 2 episodes on the podcast like 3 years ago or something like that. But also I've had the privilege of having him come into our community to speak with our women. And I know that it was one of their favorite episodes, like ever. They were like, that was so helpful. And not because we have a perfect relationship or perfect marriage, but because it was good to hear from someone else that maybe was not as excited about money as I am, right? And, we've shared in the past that both of us knew nothing about money. We knew how to earn from our main work, but we did not know anything about managing it or investing or diversifying or mindset or how to think about money. We had different backgrounds, but the backgrounds that we had was not leading us to have the freedom that we wanted in our lives. And so I happened to be the one that actually started learning about money first in terms of like the wealth mindset and investing in our mind and all that. And I was the one that brought it into the family and into the home and figuring out and navigating how to bring this knowledge into the family, right? And I know that some of you guys are listening where your spouse is the money person and maybe you're the one that's finally starting to get on track and maybe you're the one that is earning the money and bringing it home and your spouse is the one managing it. But maybe you listen to this episode because you're like, it doesn't feel great to be outside of it. Or maybe you've already started the journey and you're like, I want to take things to a different level, but there's friction in my relationship when it comes to how we should manage our finances and how we should manage this money. So we have literally gone from having completely different ways of thinking about money to finding a common ground in our own family. Doesn't mean that we agree with every single thing. I will be honest with you guys, like when it comes to things like investing in my personal coaching, investing in some areas of my business, like my spouse doesn't necessarily agree with it. And like Sheila didn't have a coach or didn't want a coach until end of last year, 2023, right? He had seen the impact that coaching had had on my life, well vetted coaching, not just like pouring money under the drain, but it had honestly improved my life, improved my family's life in many ways, but he was very skeptical of it, not just in terms of like the investment that it maybe sometimes required, but also, I will be honest with you, like I've never seen or met anyone that values and see the value of his mind like my husband does. He does not let just anybody pour into his mind. He's like, I don't trust anybody with my mind. And he's like, I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to hear the word of God and let that transform me. And sometimes I look at him like, I am surprised you've done so well without coaching, because it's helped me so much, right? But we finally found someone that he vibed with. He watched long enough to trust their ethics, trust their words, and make sure that for him, it really vibed with what the word of God. We're Christians. You don't have to be a Christian, but it needed to match up and not be in conflict with in order for him to accept that that is someone that it would be willing to open his mind to. Right. So for us, when it came to our finances, and even though we have joint and we have individual, there were things that I was investing in that it was not necessarily on oh, thumbs up, where I'm so excited about this, I'll be no, it was not. Right. And so how do you navigate that as a family? How do you navigate not just investing in your mindset, but also investing in whatever it is, or just like how to manage the finances, and whether you need to like listen to your spouse or not. By the way, I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a therapist. I just have some wisdom, I would say, when it comes to this sort of things. But also just keep in mind that there's no one size fits all. What works for my family is not going to work for your family. And the goal is not for you to take what I'm saying and go push that down your spouse's throat. What I hope is that if we have similar systems, number one, then you can take what part of it is going to be of value to your family and drop the rest. But if you don't agree with any part of this, then I want that to inspire you to now create your own plan that you can now go execute. So whether you agree with this or not, whether this is going to work for your family or not, I trust you to know your family and decide what is going to vibe with your family and work for the growth and wealth of your family, right? So that you can execute what you want to execute. And so the question I want to ask you first, before I dive into sort of like my tips for what can help you, is sort of two things. Number one is looking at your spouse, asking yourself for like what their track record is. And when I say their track record, you're probably like, oh, Latifat, if it was based on track record, I should not be commenting. And the key is we cannot necessarily judge our future based on our past. However, there is some clues that you can get. So, for example, maybe you and your spouse are getting married or are married or long-term commitment, and they come from a family that has wealth generationally, and maybe they have more of a wealthy mindset, and maybe you come from more of a poverty focused mindset, right? And their track record of maybe they don't worry about money because they've created a plan, they're executing, they know how to use their mind to work for them. Their track record in terms of their own character and their wisdom when it comes to their finances and wealth building, it's something that can cue you into whether this is someone who should be trusted and can be trusted. Again, it doesn't mean you let them make all the decisions or you make all of the decisions. It's a question of like, how much can you trust where this is coming from? I mean, this is just like common sense, right? For example, if I'm here talking to you about how to, how like everybody and their mama is like expert at telling you how to be a good parent, a good mother, even if they've never had a kid before. Kind of like the same thing, right? You want to take that advice with a grain of salt. Doesn't mean that you cannot learn from them, but you're like, Well, honey, when I look at your life, I don't know that you have the experience, the lived out applied wisdom and applied knowledge that I would want to learn from. So the same is true, is looking at the track record, not like, oh, you made a mistake 5 years ago. I remember that one time where you were late on a credit card payment 10 years ago. So because of that, I'm never going to trust you. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking more of like when you look at your future, you look at your character when it comes to money and spending and all that. Is this something that is an asset to your family going forward? Because if that's the case, then absolutely you want to listen and find a way to create like a taking yours and theirs and creating like magic with it. In fact, if you think about when it comes to like charges, like positive and negative charges attract, right? Positive and positive does not attract. Negative and negative does not attract. Positive and negative forces attract together. So there is a very good chance that your spouse and you may actually have very different philosophies when it comes to money. The thing is, so many people think that that's a bad thing. They make that mean that that's a bad thing when that by itself is actually not a bad thing, but instead it's your inability to merge the black and white together and create like a beautiful blend of color with it. That is the challenge. I've had some women that I've coached where maybe their spouses were someone that wants to spend on like experience and YOLO and all that. And maybe now that you're learning more about money, you're like, okay, I understand what assets are and I want to spend on assets. But is the right answer spending on assets only? Or is the right answer spending on liabilities only? Or a combination of both and finding the right balance for what season you guys are in your family, right? That may be the case. So my point is that if you and your spouse are different when it comes to your philosophies around money, does not mean that it's a bad thing, right? I will give you another example. Like when it comes to Sheila and I, Sheila likes the computer guy. He likes computers. Literally, he would hang out around computers all day if you let him. And I would, I want to be present, right? I want to be present. I want us to have quality of life. Does not mean that he does not want that. But if there's a computer screen somewhere that especially has a problem to be fixed, like Sheila is more likely to migrate towards that to fix the computer problem. But I'm like, next thing you're going to be getting recruited to fix all the computers in the city, right? And it's like, that's great. That's fine. I love doing this, right? But the key is the answer is not ignore computers. The answer is not hug computers. The answer is somewhere in between where we can blend that together to make sure that my blind spot is being seen by his and his blind spot has been seen by mine, right? So when you're talking about looking at the track record, whatever that is, it's not a matter of like, have they ever made a mistake before? Are they perfect? No, it's understanding that maybe this is someone that I want to pour into our finances in terms of their wisdom versus this is not someone that I want to pour in our wisdom. And I want you to also be careful because especially if you're someone that's starting the financial journey, you may be tempted to believe and downplay your own knowledge, your own knowing, your own wisdom, your own impute into the family's finance, which would be a grave mistake in my opinion, because again, everybody has a blind spot. Okay. And then number two question to sort of like set the foundation for you guys is, what is the culture of your family? What's the culture of your home? There's no one size fits all. As long as it's working for you guys, and I'm not saying working for you guys from a fear-based perspective. I mean, if you could create your dream financial life, if you could create your dream financial collaboration system, is this it? If the answer is yes, then you're good. One of the things that I've found though is many women physicians will buy into the lie that we're so busy we don't have time to do our finances. That maybe you're earning it and handing it over to your spouse. Maybe you're ignoring it and believing that your spouse that has a master's in something, you're like, well, they're smelt some sort of like finance in their first year, so they must be better than I am. And we're delegating our power, and we literally are leaving one of the most amazing brains in the world, which is you as a woman physician, outside of one of your biggest wells, which is your finance, right? That's not a great idea. And if you think about it, we spend so much time working as like traditionally as physicians that when we're not putting some of our own input into the finances, and we're still continuing to work and grind and all this stuff because we don't know what's happening in our finances, we are literally closing our eyes and overworking, not being a part of our own family's life, as if your finance and your own ability is the only thing that is of value that you add to the family. What I've found is with working with women physicians that maybe that's how they started out, and now they're like, okay, no, now I know my money. Now I'm looking at what we're doing with our combined finances, not just the one that I'm earning only. What I find is that many of them actually finally see that, one, we're behind where we want to be, and so now they can press on the gas pedal, or two, we're doing better than I thought, and now they get to like actually be intentional about deciding what they want their work life balance, if that's a word. I don't like using the word balance in that regard, but like what they want their life to look like, what they want their hours to look like, what they want their interaction with their families to look like, what they want their experiences to look like. So maybe for you, maybe when you go on vacation, you're worried about money, when you should not be worried about money because you guys are good. So essentially, there is literally no good reason why you should stay out of your finances. Like you, there is no business more important than the business of you being in the business of your life, one of which is your finance. So that is sort of like the base or the foundation that I want to set in terms of like, what is your spouse's track record? And if there's someone that you can trust. And number two is, what's the culture of your family? And if the culture is not what you want, then how can you set a different culture that, yes, will be uncomfortable to get to, but is worth putting into place so that you're not creating a relationship of the past, but a relationship that actually fuels your future. Okay. So now that I've said that, I want to share with you guys 5 things, if you want to call it like advice, suggestions, opinions, thoughts that I truly, truly believe will be helpful for you as you're making this decision of whether to have or how much input you want your spouse to have when it comes to how you're investing both of your money. Again, depends on what your culture in your family is. And I'm not saying culture as in like, oh, the country you're from. No, I'm talking about the culture, how you guys demonstrate value as defined by both of you guys that are involved in your relationship. Okay. So the first thing I want to say is this: choose wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is applied knowledge. Choose wisdom. What will wisdom do in this case? What will wisdom do? Honestly, I'm a huge fan of wisdom. I literally spend money to gain wisdom. I spend money, time, and attention because I know that wisdom is something that cannot be taken away from me as long as I continue to seek wisdom. And there are times when you may be the source of the wisdom. There are times where a trusted friend, a mentor, a coach, or you, in a deeper level of you, may be where wisdom is. Because I do believe that we all have wisdom. Sometimes it's just covered with dust. And the dust may be fear, shame, judgment, bringing past baggage into the present and into the future. But we all have wisdom. So can you hear your own wisdom, your inner knowing, and able to execute and take action based on that wisdom, right? Wisdom may be, we need to have more than this in our emergency fund. Wisdom could be, this is not the right time for us to invest in this asset in this season at this moment. Wisdom may be, my spouse is not agreeing with this because they don't see what I see. And wisdom may be doing it even if they're not 100% on board. And I know that gets pretty tricky, but even your own track record now is going to speak a little bit for you. I remember when Sheila and I decided that we wanted to travel with our kids. We said we wanted to travel out of the country and all that stuff. And we ended up going to like 20 countries over the span of a year, roughly a year. And I remember that we have family that is really, really close to us. Like his mom is unfortunately now late. My mom is thankfully alive, and we wanted to let them know because in our family, we have a close-knit family. We let each other know things. But for us, wisdom was not letting our moms in on it until later on. Because if they had known earlier, they may have tried to convince us to change our mind because it was scary for them. Not because we don't trust their judgment, but we've also evaluated it from every angle that we can think about. And we knew that this was a leap of faith. This was an uncommon action to take 3 kids and travel the world. So we knew that their fear was going to be potentially limiting. And we had decided that we wanted to have an uncommon life. That's a life that we chose. And so we knew that it was going to be uncomfortable for them. And not everybody has access to the mindset tools, to the mindset strengthening that we've also done over the last couple of years. So not everybody knows that discomfort is a currency to change. So wisdom was, don't share until the plan is already in motion, and well in motion to the point where you don't have to deal with your mind being attempted to be changed, right? So choosing wisdom is number one. Number two is I want you to think long term. Think long term. So many times we're focusing on the short term only that we're not thinking about long term, right? And I hate to bring up this because nobody ever plans or hopes that they will lose their spouse early, but it happens. And I pray that doesn't happen for you. I pray it doesn't happen for me. However, I don't want us to look back in regret. So what decision would you make if you knew that one of you guys had an expiration date? And I know that that sounds a little dramatic, and I don't want us to live life like, you're going to die next month. So you like spend everything that you have. It's actually funny. I remember growing up in Nigeria, there were times when people would have this, I don't know, rumors or saying about like, it's the end of life. It's the end of times. And people would do like, what seemed kind of foolish to me, which was they would sell all of their stuff. And I'm like, where are you going to take the money? Like, I guess they want to spend all of it, and the world has obviously not ended yet. And I'm like, what y'all going to do now? You got no couch. You got no couch. You got no car. You got no clothes and your life, right? So with wisdom, just asking yourself that question, like when I look back at what we did last year, we're taking time off. Will I ever regret that? The answer is freaking no, right? And so using that same idea when it comes to planning and deciding how much and what directions you guys are going to make decisions from is being able to balance the short term and also the long term, meaning that if we continue to spend in the way that my spouse wants us to, will we be fine in future? And be as specific as possible. Will we be able to cut down at work? Would we be able to pay for the kids' educational funds? Would we be able to retire at the age that we want to retire? Will we be able to take time off like we want to take time off? Like, ask those specific questions, but also now balancing that with the short term as well, which is you don't want to go not living life at all because you're only thinking about 30 years from now. Like there is something about balancing those two things that can be wise, to be honest with you. So that's number two, is think long term, but also think short term, right? The third is be kind and actually listen. This is something that many of us actually are pretty bad at, which is like listening. Many times we listen to respond as opposed to listening to understand. And I actually think that this is part of the reason why money gets blamed for everything, because it's actually not money. It's us. We are the problems, not money. But if you're not listening to understand, if you're only listening to respond, you are literally maybe leaving wisdom on the table, right? So asking yourself, do I understand where they're coming from? Like you can understand and still choose differently. But many times if we actually understood, we both probably have the same goals. And the goal is we want to take care of our family. We want to have a great quality of life. We want to live a life that's great. We don't want to, we want to be good with the resources that we've been given. So many times we probably have more in common than not if we would just be kind and listen to understand. So that's my third thing, is listen to understand, the where they're coming from, why they're coming from there. And I know that this can be hard when life is so busy, which is why I honestly do not believe that any physician should be working full time if possible, because the time that we need, like that space in our schedule to be able to have conversations in a way that's not hurried, in a way that's not like the exhausted version of you having that conversation, can literally be protective over your long term. And divorce is one of the most expensive things that physicians do more commonly than most. And it's not because there's anything wrong with us. I mean, many times we know who we're dating or marrying before we do, but it's really because we're not leaving room for communication and because we don't have the space in our lives to listen without the scarcity of time. So be kind and listen to understand, not just for the heck of it. Number 4 is this, and this is going to sound very counter whatever, but especially as someone that is a money coach. And I think, it's funny, like when I'm talking to the women inside of my program, they're like, Latifah, you're more than a money coach. You are like a liberation coach. You're like a wealth coach. You're like this wisdom person. And I don't know what to call myself. So I go by money coach. But the thing is, I will say, be okay leaving money on the table in the short term, if that means giving you the quality of family and the quality of relationship that you want. So for example, when women come into our community, one of the things that I ask them is, what's your goal for investment? Some of them may go, I want to invest in like 3 apartment complexes. I want to invest in business. I want to, invest some amount in the stock market. So I want to be clear about what your goal, like you are my client. Your spouse is not my client. And I will be honest with y'all. And the reason why I like being honest, because I want you to know what to expect. There are many times when spouses don't actually like me at the beginning. So if you sign up to join us inside of the money school and you start executing the stuff that we tell you, some of you guys, your spouses may not like you. Your husbands may go like, what this woman? Literally, I've had people go like, why is this woman that's not in our relationship getting a say or suggestion in how we handle our money? Right. And it's not because I tell people to take what I suggest, but it's because I put the wisdom on the table and I let you take you can apply. But that may make your spouse uncomfortable at the beginning. However, I will tell you that of most of them that did not like me at the beginning, was like the spouses that did not like me, most of them actually ended up loving me later, because now they're like having money in their family. They're having space of life. They're having better quality of life. Their money is invested. Their money is growing. They're taking vacations. They're doing this other stuff. And they're like, Latifah, maybe I now love you. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard this. Like, it's come up so many times that now I actually warn people about it, and they know what to expect, right? But that's because this, change can be uncomfortable for people, including your spouse. And so just giving that room of kindness, I think, is important. But I say be okay leaving money on the table, because if you guys are having such friction because of one investment that you're like, the deadline for that investment is tomorrow, it's okay to miss out on the investment this time if you need space to like untangle the tangles in your relationship before you make that investment. And I mean that seriously. And I've made this advice to people or suggestion to people, and sometimes they don't take it, and that's okay. I'm not expecting you to take every suggestion or advice that you get from me. However, I do believe that sometimes you may want to leave money on the table so that you can give the respect that is due to your relationship. And I'm not just saying to your spouse only, because I do believe that mutual respect is important. Yes, respect your spouse and they should respect you. But there's that third entity that is your relationship, that you're not just doing it for your spouse only, you're doing it for your relationship. So it may be okay for you to miss out in the short term on this investment opportunity for the sake of being honorable and respectful to that third entity, which is your relationship. The flip side of that is I've literally coached people and they've decided to do something opposite to what their spouse wanted them to do. That is for you to decide. But I want you to know that you have the permission, not that you need my permission, but it's okay to miss out on the short term on that investment, right? For the sake of, if you believe that you need time for you both to come together and have a conversation. Then the last but not the least is this. I want you to let whatever decision that you make to be an inspiration and a challenge for you. So for example, because I know that my husband isn't necessarily like pro me, like even when I got coach certified and all that good stuff, it wasn't necessarily like, oh yay, go pour 5 figures into investing into your brain, because he did not understand the ROI, the return on investment. I did. So now I knew that that was not going to be the last thing that I invested in. So I took it as a challenge to make sure that I got a return on my investment, not from a scarcity perspective, but more from like accountability perspective, right? You know, like when someone like a counselor tells you that you're not going to get into medical school and you're like, watch me apply. You're not becoming a doctor because of them, but it's what you were going to do anyway. But now you just have more of like of beneath your bum, a fire beneath your bum to give it your all and go all in and go full in so that you and your family can earn and get the benefit of this investment that you want to make. Because ultimately what I found is this. Many of the women physicians that I have the privilege and honor of serving, many of them are bringing new ideas into their family. They are the bridge, not just to money, but to wealth and freedom and a different lifestyle and a different way of doing things and a different way of earning and a different way of like possibility, because our brains are just like 3D, right? And so I believe that that's important. And when we are waiting for everybody, including our spouse, to always be 100% on board, sometimes it actually is limiting our families from accomplishing what they need to accomplish, what they want to do. Another example of that is, when I'm doing like credit card points, which I'm not like fanatic about it. I would say like on a scale of 0 to 10, I am probably like a 6.5 when it comes to like how well I do things or how seriously I take things. And my husband would go like, oh my goodness, like, why are we doing the credit card? Like, why I'm like, don't you ever use a debit card to pay for anything? Like, use the credit card and pay it off. That's what we do. And it wasn't until we actually paid for business class with points that my husband was like, I would never bother you anymore. I'm all in now, right? About this. But when I think about if I had waited for his comfort at the beginning, it wasn't like he was against it, but he wasn't completely comfortable with it. If I had waited for his comfort, we would not have had that experience. And the same applies on the other side too, because there's lots of value that it brings into those relationships. I'm like, I'm not an expert at that. But because we're here talking about money and this is my show and y'all got me with the mic, right? But just understand that there are times when we need to understand that discomfort is the currency to change. And giving your spouse the gift of the space to be uncomfortable, to catch on, may be one of the best gifts that you can give your family, right? There are things that he does when it comes to technology that I'm like, I don't feel comfortable with this. And he does it after doing like due diligence and looking like 5 million times even more so to make sure that he's doing things right. And then he does it and it adds value to our lives. The same way that what you're doing, the decisions that you're making, the moves you're making about managing your finances, delegating, hiring, firing, like even when it came to like hiring a house, like someone to help us clean our home, it was not for it for a while, right? But just understand that the people pleasing part of us wants everybody to be all in and high-fiving us and celebrating with us. But understand that if you're waiting for that, you may be delaying your family's freedom. You may be delaying the time between now and when you guys accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. You may be letting go of your job as a bridge to wealth, to freedom, to a different kind of lifestyle, to education, to a different life for your kids. So I hope this episode has been helpful for you. So just to make sure you guys are well on the same page, just to summarize real quickly, number one is choose wisdom, right? Applied wisdom, so important. Number two, think long term and merge that with short term. Number three is be kind and actually listen to understand. Number four is be okay leaving some money on the table in the short term. If that is what your relationship, the gift that you can give your relationship. And then the last but not the least is use this as a challenge or inspiration to go full in to get the return on investment so that you can be the bridge that you're meant to be. I believe that my job is the same way that I have stood on the shoulders of the giants that have gone before me. I'm not going to do everything perfectly, but I know that my job and one of my calling is to improve and help the next generation. Like this is the baton in my hands, and I get to be the one to now help the next generation have even higher shoulders than the one that has gone before me. And when I don't say yes to my calling as a bridge to money and knowledge and wealth and all the stuff in my family, maybe to a way and a layer or level that's never been seen before, I am literally saying no to the work of my life. So I love you guys. I hope this has been helpful. If it has been, I would love it if you can leave us a review, whatever platform that you're listening to, and share this episode, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever, and tag me so that I can also give you a shout out. I love getting messages about the episodes we're doing and how it's been helpful for you. And if there's any questions that you want me to answer on any of this episodes, go ahead and send me a message on Instagram, MoneyFitMD. I'm also on Facebook, MoneyFitMD. Go ahead and follow me. We're also on YouTube, by the way, MoneyFitMD. We're putting some energy into improving our YouTube channel. So if you're there, go find us, go subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, let us know what your thoughts are in the comment. I love you guys so much. Thank you for being a part of my world. And I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.